The Paragon Hotel became a very famous holiday location for rich people and celebrities in 1980. Eventually, a well-known mobster began running a clandestine operation out of the hotel and even put money into it. Later, the owner's wife was found dead, and he was nowhere to be found. The hotel had to close because of this. His money went away when the mobster died, too. A few months ago, Amanda crawled on the floor of a dark hallway in a desperate attempt to escape. She froze in fear as she noticed something in front of her. Diane starts a webcast for her channel, The Creepers Right Now. She and her boyfriend Rick say that today's prank will be to jump off a train that's moving. A quick clip of Diane jumping through the door cuts into their conversation. A shocked passenger watches as her face gets modified for fun. This was all part of their introduction. Now Cora and Vern show up with a giant garbage can to display the full process. Since they're all wearing staff clothes, security doesn't stop them as they stroll by. They open the container when they're on the train, so JD can get out with their gear. Rick tries to notify a passenger that the automobile is closed, but she doesn't listen. The squad also ignores her and uses tools to break down the door. Then they put in a metal bar that will stop the door from closing again. They take off their uniforms and jump from the moving train, landing neatly, exactly like they practiced. The group is now on the tracks, so they have to run as fast as they can to escape being run over. They hurry to the wall and move out of the way just in time. They get to a massive gate and try to open it, but they can't. Cora rushes up to start climbing the wall and gate, and she uses her body cam to video it. She opens a vent and walks across it to go to the other side, where she may let her pals in. The party walks down a hallway and admires the graffiti that covers every inch of the walls. They locate a piece of graffiti by the famous artist Basquiat at the end of the hallway. Rick tells everyone to record but not touch, and then they take pictures and films of the site. JD, on the other hand, starts to shatter a piece of the Basquiat graffiti, ignoring his companions when they tell him to stop. Rick rushes on him to stop him, and they start a fight. Rick removes JD from the team when Vern pulls them apart. JD replies he'd rather be rich than a nobody and takes the graffiti piece with him. The group hears the guards coming a few minutes later. They start rushing down the tunnel right away and get away without getting captured. Diane looks at the posted video the next day and sees that it only earned 82 views. Rick tells the crew he has a surprise because they are upset because they don't know what else to do to get views. He got the plans for the Paragon Hotel since he heard that the mobster's money is still concealed there. A lot of people have tried to go into the empty building to look for that money, but none of them have come back. People say that bad things live there and don't like visitors. The group is delighted about the thought of discovering the money, but Rick reminds them that they can just write about it. Diane then pulls off her hat to show off her new hair color. She is disappointed that Rick is left in shock. At that point, they get a message saying that JD has joined a new team. In a video, he shows off a stolen wall piece and makes fun of the creepers. Rick deems his new friends psychos because they are playing Russian roulette. Diane posts that they will be going to the Paragon when the others aren't looking. The next night, Vern, Cora, and Rick are in a motel with their stuff, but they still haven't heard from Diane. Someone knocks on the door at that moment, and Rick opens it to discover Frank, who works for the Vice News site. Cora says that he called her, and she asked him to come with them. Finally, Diane shows up, and Frank tells her that he wants to see the gang break the Paragon and publish the tale. Diane's post tells him about their plan, and the gang is mad at her for ruining the surprise. Rick doesn't like it, and Vern thinks Frank is a cop who is working undercover. Diane, on the other hand, likes the idea because it might get them the views they need, so they're taking Frank with them. The gang departs the motel, but when they get to their van, they remember that they neglected to carry an extra diesel. Frank says he will drive them, so everyone ends up crammed into the back. They drive a long way on the beach and then get to a gate where they use a tool to cut the lock. Rick tells Vern that they need to get out of the tunnels before the rain hits because he sees that a storm is coming. They can't open doors or windows because they are locked. They put on helmets and go into the sewage tunnel. After trekking for a while, they find the tunnel that would lead them into the building. It's not very big, though. They have to crawl through it, even though it smells terrible. They hear a commotion and are terrified to see a lot of rats. As soon as they see the rats, they cover their faces, and Frank gets on top of Cora to protect her. The good news is that the mice leave the tunnel swiftly and no one gets wounded. A few minutes later, they walk out of the small tunnel and see a power box that is sparking. Diane decides to look for another way in because the gate they want to use is blocked by a mound of things. Cora breaks the lock with a tool and opens the gate anyhow, which makes the things fall. Cora cries for Diane to come back now that there's room to get through. They don't wait for her. They quickly cross the fence and go into the hotel. Rick provides an introduction for his video while the gang starts to record and take pictures. Some birds fly off and hit the chandelier when he speaks the name of the hotel. This makes the chandelier crack and fall. Cora swiftly jumps out of the way so she doesn't get crushed when the chandelier falls. Diane, on the other hand, finds another way in that leads her to a really good room. She starts streaming for her fans right away. She walks up the stairs to the ballroom and plays around on the piano. She doesn't answer the phone when Rick calls her because she doesn't want to see the footage. She hears a strange noise at that moment and thinks it's the rats, so she runs away. She trips on the steps and falls, dropping her phone. While she gets her breath, a sinister hand comes up behind her. Rick is frightened about Diane's disappearance, so he encourages his pals to look in every room. Cora tells Frank that Rick wants a marriage, and Diane wants adventure after he runs up the stairs. Rick works at a hardware shop and gives the gang tools, so they let him assume he's in charge. Cora sees Frank's ring and asks about his wife. He gives her a picture of Amanda. Rick interrupts the moment and tells them to join the hunt. Vern keeps taking images and sees claw marks on the wall in the meantime. He hears a disturbance and decides to leave that place, not knowing that there is a shadow running close. When the group gets back together, Vern shows them the picture of the claw marks. Rick says they have to find Diane and leave, so Cora offers to seek a master key. Frank wants to go with her, but Vern doesn't trust him, so he goes instead. Cora and Vern look through the reception desk in a lobby and uncover a newspaper article that tells them about the owner's death and the disappearance of his wife. The police didn't tell anyone what happened, but there were whispers that the wife's chest was open and her heart was missing. Rick and Frank are still looking around the halls and rooms. Frank wants to know how Rick met Diane, so he tells him that it occurred at an empty mental institution. He stops telling his narrative when he stumbles on a bear trap by mistake. Frank takes it off right away, so when Vern and Cora come back, Vern rushes on Frank, thinking he harmed Rick. Frank slams him against the wall to make him calm down. Then, since they don't have a first aid kit, he cleans Rick's wound with water and binds it with tape. Rick won't go without Diane, even though Cora wants to take him to the hospital. They hear Diane's phone ringing all of a sudden, so they go up to the next floor to find it. They find a big tree with phones and cameras dangling from its limbs. Rick knows Diane's phone, so they watch her farewell video. But the phone dies right when she falls. Then they hear an odd noise, and Vern doesn't want to, but he says they should call the cops. Cora agrees, but Rick and Frank don't think they can wait for the cops. The group keeps going, and Cora hears another disturbance. When someone jumps on her, she throws a punch. Frank takes out a gun and points it at the attacker, who turns out to be JD. Suddenly, JD's new gang shows in and knocks Frank down. Max takes Frank's rifle while Todd aims his own gun at Rick's gang, ordering them all drop on their knees and give up their phones and stuff. Rick says they also attacked Diane, but Todd denies it and insults her. When Todd asks where the money is, Cora and Rick taunt him back. Todd approaches closer with the gun and starts to talk about the terrible things he'll do to them if they don't help. Cora starts making fun of them, so Mac tries to strike her, but Vern stops him. Mac points his rifle at him in response. Then Todd makes Cora stand up and places the gun in her mouth. Frank says he doesn't know how to use it. Todd lets Cora go and points the gun at Frank instead. This makes Frank admit that he's seeking for his wife. Todd threatens Cora again when he won't say anything else. Frank ultimately tells Amanda that she is the reporter, not him. A few months ago, she and her photographer went missing as they were working on a piece about the hotel. Frank needed a way in because the cops weren't helpful. Diane's post gave him hope. Todd doesn't care about the ladies who are missing, and he taunts them before turning to Cora, who spits on his face. Todd is angry and pulls out a handkerchief to wipe his face. Rick sees that it's Diane's and leaps on Todd to try to get it back. Todd just pushes him away and says he didn't know the handkerchief was Diane's before giving it to Rick. Todd pushes Rick over the balcony when Rick grabs it. Rick cries as he falls through a very deep hole in the floor. JD tells Todd that he went too far, but Todd just hits him. Then he asks Frank where the money is, and when Frank won't say, Todd hits him as well. Frank says that the plans showed where the money was, and Rick had the only copy of them. Todd says that they will go look for Rick. Cora finds a body on the floor when the party gets back to the hallway. But they can't get there because there is a big hole in the earth. Cora jumps to bounce off the wall and grab the cables that are dangling from a ceiling. Then she swings to fall on the lamps. She hesitates for a moment, then jumps again to grab the next cables and spins all the way around to land on the opposite side of the pit. Cora runs to the body, assuming it's Rick, but it's really an ancient skeleton with bugs on it. Todd says they'll look somewhere else and blasts the cables to keep Cora from following them. They hear a woman crying as they travel down the hall, so they follow the sound into a room. Mac opens a weird closet and only discovers clothes. When he turns around, a scary hand reaches out to grab him, and he quickly backs away. Then a woman comes out and asks for aid. Frank knows her as Amanda's photographer Beth. Then they hear another strange noise, and Beth believes it's coming, which means everyone will die. Rick and Mac put on night vision goggles, turn off the flashlights, and close the curtains. They glance about the room, but they don't see anything weird. All of a sudden, they hear someone getting beaten and choking. They find JD dead with a metal bar in his mouth when they turn around. Something huge is moving around them in the dark. Mac and Todd start shooting, but they don't hit anything, and Todd runs out of bullets. Finally, the creature gives up and crawls up the wall to get out via a hole in the roof. The group turns on its flashlights again and sees that Beth has been shot and murdered. Diane wakes up in the master bedroom of the penthouse, on a bed. There are candles all throughout the place and a satanic pentagram on the floor. She runs to the door, but it won't open. Cora hears a door being pushed at the same time and follows the sound into a very simple room. The door closes behind her. She jumps when something touches her ankle, but it's just Rick hiding beneath the bed. Cora goes to hide in the closet when she hears more strange noises in the room. Rick stays under the bed. Cora sees that the monster looks like a very pale person when it comes in. It unlocks the wardrobe and looks inside, but Cora is hanging from a ceiling. Rick smashes it with a piece of wood from behind when it eventually glances up. The monster grabs Rick by the neck, and Cora runs away while Rick is hurled across the room. Cora gets to the lift quickly and presses all the buttons, but it doesn't function. The creature grabs her arm through the bars, so Cora fights to get away and steps out of reach. Then she pushes a lever to turn on the power, and the lift finally starts to move. Cora runs down a hallway on the next floor and tries a few doors until she finds one that is open. She finds the security cameras in this area, which show Amanda sitting in a chair and Diane in the master bedroom. Cora then sees a stack of VHS tapes and sees one with strange symbols on its label. She plays it on a TV, and after a few minutes of static, a silhouette of a person appears. A scary voice tells him that he was given a strong secret to make him more than just a stupid man. This turns into a tape of the owner's wife's murder, and the killer tearing out her heart. Diane looks around till she finds a book called His Dark Majesty at the same time. A note from the gangster to the owner warns that this book can offer her a lot of power, but can also hurt her a lot. The book's content talks of a ceremony that uses terms like satanic and ungodly to channel the forbidden power of shadow alchemy. There are pictures of a scary monster eating humans and a person turning into a monster. In another drawing, the creature is swallowing a person's heart. The book and the recording both say that the chosen one will get superhuman strength by devouring a mortal's precious heart. In the meantime, Todd and Mac go around until they locate a room that is open and has gunshot holes in the closet. Todd runs to get it while Mac looks around. He can't believe it when he sees a skeleton on the floor with its chest exposed and rodents eating it. Mac goes away because he thinks the money isn't worth it. When Mac gets to the stairs, he hears the monster and starts shooting, but the monster gets away swiftly. Mac keeps sprinting and tries to go through the door, but he falls. There's a wire tied across the entrance that cut his neck, and now he is slowly bleeding to death. Todd tries to leave the room with the money, but the monster stops him. It grabs him by the neck and stabs his chest with its strong nails to get to his heart. The creature eats Todd's heart once he dies. Cora sees the bodies on all the screens, but Diane keeps reading. The text adds that the last change from man to beast happens when the Dark Lord is given the chance to merge two souls that want to become one. The man-beast will thereafter live forever. Diane sees a bridal dress on a chair and knows that the monster wants to use her for the last rite. Out of nowhere, the monster shows up behind her and touches her face. Frank and Vern hear a voice on the stairs. They run down and almost hit the wire, but they stop just in time. There's a hole in Mac's chest, and his body is on the floor. The voice is coming from his kit bag. Vern takes out a walkie-talkie and finally talks to Cora. She tells them to run because she sees the monster coming. Frank and Vern sprint as fast as they can to get to the kitchen. Cora informs them they can sneak away through the dumbwaiter if they lock the door and obtain a knife. They push the button, but it doesn't function, so they had to move it by hand. Vern goes in first and starts tugging the rope to make the dumbwaiter go up. He works hard to climb to the top floor, and Cora helps him get out. Frank has to pull the ropes to get the dumbwaiter back now. Frank goes in the dumbwaiter and pulls the ropes again to move up as the creature starts banging on the door. The monster finally breaks in at that point, so Frank tries to go quicker. He sees the monster climbing the tube when he glances down through the opening in the dumbwaiter. Frank orders Vern to cut the ropes when the thing puts its hands inside the dumbwaiter. Vern jumps out. The dumbwaiter slides down rapidly, taking the monster with it. Later, Vern uses the walkie-talkie to reach Frank, who says he's all right because he jumped to another floor. They agree to meet at the penthouse, but first Frank walks back to the tree to fetch Amanda's phone. He gave it to her as a gift, so it has their initials on the back. Cora gives him the appropriate room number, and Frank kicks open a door to discover Amanda sitting in a chair with a hole in her chest. He kisses her and puts his jacket over her before he leaves. Then Frank talks to Vern and Cora, who inform him where Diane is. They are also astonished to learn that the creature is still alive, so Frank offers to save Diane. Diane puts on the dress in the master bedroom and walks up to the creature, acting like she's friendly. She smashes it with the book and runs away when it's not paying attention, and the monster chases her. Frank is looking for the right door in the hallway, but he can't find it. He hears Diane scream and follows the sound to see the creature pulling Diane's hair. Frank races toward them and tackles the monster, and they both fall off the balcony. Frank crashes to the ground, and the creature gets stuck on a tree branch. This kills both of them. After that, Diane gets the walkie-talkie and asks Cora about Rick. Cora tells her what happened and provides her the room number. Diane runs over to that room and sees Rick lying on the floor. She tears up because she thinks he's dead, but luckily he wakes up and the four buddies can be together again. Later, the creepers are all over the news for locating the money, and they motivate people to explore cities. Their video about the hotel gets 100 million views, and even celebrities offer comments. Cora dyes her hair blonde for their next trip. Rick opens a bag and shows that he has stolen a tiny quantity of money. He says that a little bit won't ruin the coat. To see more videos like this one, make sure to subscribe and enable on notifications. Thanks for watching.